This is section 1.3, part 2, where we're going to solve a linear equation with variables on both sides. So we see we've got variables on both sides of the equation in our first problem. So we've got 8z plus 7 equals negative 2z minus 3. So we're going to want to combine like terms by moving variables from one side to the other, or terms from one side to the other, I should say. So it doesn't matter, all right? You can move the 7 from the left side to the right, or you can move the 3 from the right side to the left. It really doesn't matter. It's up to you. I'm going to start by combining my terms with the variable z. So I see a negative here, so I'm going to add 2z to both sides. And I'm adding 2z to both sides because I want to cancel. All right, remember opposite operations. So 2z plus 2z is 0. So I've got 8z plus 2z, that gives me 10z. Next, I'm just going to drop down the other terms I haven't worked with yet. So I'm going to drop down my plus 7, and I'm going to drop down my negative 3. So my terms with the variable z have been combined. So since I moved the z from the right to the left, I need to move the constant from left to right, right? Because you want to eventually isolate that variable z. So I'm going to move 7 to the other side by subtracting. All right, opposite operation, 7 minus 7 is 0. So I'm going to drop down my 10z, and I can see negative 3. I'm starting at negative 3, taking away another 7, so I'm now at negative 10. And the last step is to isolate the z by dividing both sides by 10. You can see 10 is connected to z through multiplication. Opposite operation is division, so 10 divided by 10 is 1, so those cancel. And I see z equals negative 10 divided by 10, z equals negative 1. So I want to make sure that is correct, so I'm going to check. I'm going to look at my original problem, which was 8z plus 7 equals negative 2z minus 3. I'm going to first start by plugging in the value of negative 1 in for z. So 8 times negative 1 plus 7 equals negative 2 times negative 1 minus 3. And remember, when you're checking, you're not moving numbers from one side of the equation to the other. You're just evaluating each side of the equation independently. All right, so I'm going to look at the left side and see there's some multiplication here. So 8 times negative 1 gives me negative 8. Drop down my 7. And I've got some multiplication over here. So negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. Drop down the negative 3. Last step is just to add. So negative 8 plus 7 is negative 1. 2 minus 3 is also negative 1. The two numbers match, so we know we've solved correctly. Go down to our second example. Number 2, which includes decimals here, so 7.3 minus 4.23x is equal to 7.27x minus 4.2. So I'm going to want to combine like terms again. So I'm going to look at my x's here. And I'm going to look at this negative 4.23x. I'm going to decide to move it over to the right-hand side. So since this is negative, I'm going to add 4.23x to both sides of the equation. Negative 4.23x plus 4.23x is 0, so that canceled. So I'm going to drop down my 7.3. 7.27x plus 4.23x gives me 11.5x. Then I'm going to drop down my minus 4.2. So I'm moved my x from the left side to the right, so that means I'm going to move my constant from right side to left. So I'm going to add 4.2 to both sides of the equation. Adding because opposite operations, negative 4.2 plus 4.2, that cancels. So I've got 7.3 plus 4.2, and that gives me 11.5. and I'm going to drop down 11.5x, and you can probably see where this is going. Now going to detach 11.5 from x by dividing. Opposite operation of multiplication is division. So 11.5 divided by 11.5 is 1, so that canceled. Left with x, and we have 11.5 divided by 11.5, which is 1. So we can see x equals 1 in this case. So I'm going to want to check. All right, kind of don't have a lot of room over here, so I'm just going to slide over. And I'm going to recopy the original problem, which is 7.3 minus 4.23x equals 7.27x minus 4.2. And I'm going to plug in the value of x, which we found to be 1. And I'm going to plug that in for x. So I've got 7.3 minus 4.23 times 1 equals 7.27 times 1 minus 4.2. Well, whenever you multiply by 1, anything multiplied by 1 is itself. So I've got 7.3 minus 4.23 equals 7.27 minus 4.2. I'm going to evaluate the left side first. 7.3 minus 4.23 is 3.07. 7.27 minus 4.2 is also 3.07. These numbers match, so we know we've solved correctly.